This video, titled Grammar Basics, is part of the SALS Essentials workshop series. My name is Leslie Lindstrom, and I'm the writing specialist at SALS. In this video, I'm going to go over why good grammar is important, discuss some grammar terminology, help you understand some common sentence errors and how to fix them, and point you towards some resources for getting help with grammar. Firstly, I want to discuss why good grammar is important. When you have good grammar, you're a more effective, consistent, and professional communicator. People will be more apt to listen to your ideas and more willing to be persuaded by those ideas. Also, when you understand grammar, you're able to detect and fix your errors. You'll have improved confidence, and this will ultimately help you at school and in the workplace. I want to go over some grammar terminology, starting with parts of speech. There are 8 parts of speech in English grammar, and I'll begin with nouns. Nouns name a person, place, thing, activity, or quality. And the quality I want to explain a little bit further. Qualities are more abstract concepts, things like honesty and freedom and responsibility, things you can't touch or see. There are common nouns, which you can see there are sort of general nouns, not referring to any specific person or place or institution. So college versus a proper noun, Durham College, where you're naming the actual school. You can see that proper nouns are capitalized, whereas common nouns are not. The next part of speech are pronouns, and pronouns take the place of a noun. And the noun that pronoun replaces is called the antecedent. There are different types of pronouns. I've listed a few of them there. But what you have to remember is that the pronouns replace nouns. When you use pronouns, it helps our writing to be more efficient, less repetitive. But you do have to mention the noun first before you use a pronoun. So for instance, if you were to refer to Durham College, you could say, Durham College is located in Oshawa and Whitby. Durham College offers many programs. Durham College has great academic supports. But likely you're not going to want to say Durham College 3 times. So you could say Durham College is located in Oshawa and Whitby, and it has hundreds of programs, and it has great academic supports. The next part of speech, verbs. And verbs either show the action in the sentence, so they tell us what the subject of the sentence is doing, or they express a condition or state of being, so they tell us what the subject is. There are different functions for verbs. Sometimes there's the main verb, or there's always a main verb actually. Sometimes there are helping verbs that indicate tense. Sometimes there are modal verbs which indicate possibility, as in might, could, should, and then sometimes there are linking verbs, and those are linking the subject to something that's describing it. Adjectives are words that modify, and modify means describe or limit. It gives us more specific information about the nouns or pronouns. And adjectives tell us what kind, or how many, or which one. So they specify more, give us more detail, and limit the noun or pronoun we're referring to. So you can see some there, new and bright and first. Articles are a special group of adjectives, and they are used before many nouns. So there are only 3 articles, a, an, and the. Articles give students who have English as a second language a hard time because there are so many rules for using them and not using them. But something to keep in mind is that they are considered adjectives because they're used before many nouns. Certainly not all, but many. Adverbs are words that modify, and again, modify means describe or limit. And they give us detail about, or the answer of sort of how or how often. Adverbs frequently end in ly, but certainly not always. And you can see in the examples there, we've got 3 ways that adverbs can be used to modify. They can modify verbs, so the clerk worked Worked is the verb, and you can specify how the clerk worked: quickly, efficiently, carefully, slowly. So quickly is the adverb. In the next one, the TV is too loud. Loud is an adjective, and you can specify how loud by saying or using the adverb too loud, very loud, extremely loud. So they're giving us more detail about how loud. And the last example is the TV is loud. Loud is the adjective. Again, too is describing loud. It's giving us more detail. It's limiting it. And then definitely is describing or limiting the too. So definitely too loud. So we've got an adverb modifying another adverb. Prepositions. Prepositions are words that show the relationship of a noun or pronoun to some other word in a sentence. They're usually related to time or space. So you can see of, by, from, under, to, in, and so on. Prepositions are followed by a noun or pronoun, and when you have that group of words, that's referred to as a prepositional phrase. And it often, again, expresses a relationship to time or space. So in the fall, in is the preposition, fall is a noun. In the fall, it's giving us a timeline or giving us a time frame. By the river, it's giving us a location. From the bank, again, a location. Before school. So prepositions connect words. They help to identify or show the relationship of a noun or pronoun to other words in the sentence. Conjunctions are the seventh part of speech, and conjunctions connect words, phrases, or clauses in a sentence. So there are 4 types of conjunctions. The first one are called coordinating conjunctions, and coordinating conjunctions join 2 or more grammatically equal parts in a sentence. A way to remember the coordinating conjunctions is by saying fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So there are only 7, and the acronym fanboys is a handy way to remember those. So when you use fanboys, they're connecting things that are parts of the sentence that are equal. Subordinating conjunctions make the sentence unequal, the 2 parts of the sentence unequal. So there are some examples there. After, if, since, when, because, and while. There are lots more. But when you use a subordinating conjunction, now instead of joining equal parts, you've got unequal parts in the sentence. The third type of conjunction are called correlative or paired conjunctions, and as the name says, they come in pairs. So either or, not only, but also, neither nor. So they always come together. You can't say, I will have either coffee. You're going to have to say either coffee or tea. So correlative conjunctions come in pairs. The last type of conjunction are called conjunctive adverbs, and they are used to join independent clauses together. And conjunctive adverbs, things like however, therefore, moreover, they are used to join independent clauses, and I'll talk about those more later on when we talk about the punctuation that must be used when you're using those conjunctive adverbs. The last part of speech are interjections, and interjections are words that express strong emotion. You're likely not going to use interjections in your formal academic writing. You can see some examples there, hey, wow, oh, and they're, as I said, used for to show strong emotion. They're often followed by an exclamation mark, and again, you're not going to use them in your formal writing. So those are the 8 parts of speech. Now I'm going to move on to what a sentence is. A sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. That's one of the requirements to make it a sentence. Every sentence must have a subject, which is who or what the sentence is about, and a predicate. And the predicate contains the verb and all of its modifiers. So a sentence has to have a subject, which is who or what the sentence is about, and a predicate. And within the predicate, you've got the verb. And remember, the verb is going to tell us the action of the sentence or what's happening, or it's going to give us information about a state of being. There are different sentence patterns. But the standard pattern, probably the most common pattern, is subject first, then verb, then object. So we say who or what the sentence is about. We tell us either what that subject is doing or is, and then the object is the receiver of that action. And so, as I said, there are different sentence patterns, but the most common one is subject and then verb and then object. Every sentence must also begin with a capital letter, and it ends with a punctuation mark. And the punctuation marks are either going to be periods, an exclamation mark, or a question mark. In your formal writing, you're not going to end with exclamation marks. You're likely going to use periods the majority of the time and question marks if you are asking a question. A phrase is the next term I want you to understand. So a phrase is considered a group of related words that may contain a subject or a predicate, but not both. So a phrase is not a sentence. It never can be because it's missing something. So we've got the new manager saw a rare bird. We don't know what happened to the new manager or what the new manager did, and we don't know who saw the rare bird. So a phrase, remember, is a group of words that contains a subject or a predicate, but not both. Contrast that with a clause, where a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate. Some of the clauses are independent, meaning they can stand alone, and some cannot stand alone. So I'll first of all discuss the independent or main clause. Those terms are interchangeable. Just like the name says, independent, it can stand alone. It doesn't always stand alone, but it can. So it is a full sentence, or it could be a full sentence. We can start the job tomorrow. So in that sentence, we've got the subject we, and can start is the verb, and it's expressing a complete thought. We can start the job tomorrow. A dependent or subordinate clause, and those terms are interchangeable as well, cannot stand alone. So although the job starts tomorrow, that one's beginning with a subordinating conjunction, that's not expressing a complete thought. We need more information. Although the job starts tomorrow is not a sentence. A dependent clause cannot stand alone as a sentence. There are 4 sentence types, and I'll go through each one. Really, sentences are a combination of dependent and independent clauses. So a simple sentence has one independent clause and no dependent clauses. I leave home at 7:30 a.m. each morning. That's a simple sentence, one independent clause. If you wanted to express more information or a little bit more complex idea, then you could combine 2 independent clauses and join them in one of 3 ways. So I leave home at 7:30 a.m. each morning, and I get to the college by 7:50. So we've got I leave home at 7:30 a.m. each morning is an independent clause. I get to the college by 7:50 is another independent clause, joined with a comma and one of those fanboys, those coordinating conjunctions. Another option is to join those 2 independent clauses with a semicolon. So if there's a close relationship, you could use a semicolon to join those 2 independent clauses. A third option is to join them with a semicolon, a conjunctive adverb, however, moreover, furthermore, therefore, and then a comma after that. I get to the college by 7:50. So compound sentences combine 2 or more independent clauses, but they have to be joined in one of those 3 ways. The third sentence type is a complex sentence, and a complex sentence has one independent clause and 1 or more dependent clauses. So if I leave home at 7:30 a.m. each morning, that's a dependent clause. It's beginning with subordinating conjunction if. I get to the college by 7:50. So there's a rule in grammar, I'll just give you a heads up on this. When you begin your sentence with a dependent clause, if I leave home at 7:30 a.m. each morning, there's a comma after that before you add your independent clause. So you can see in brackets there, DC, comma, IC, dependent clause, comma, independent clause. However, if you flip the sentence around and start with I get to the college by 7:50, if I leave home at 7:30, when you begin with your independent clause and then your dependent clause, there is no comma. So that's just a little trick to remember. A compound complex sentence has 2 or more independent clauses and 1 or more dependent clauses. So take a look at sentence 4, and hopefully you can pick out the dependent clause. And then you'll see that we have 2 independent clauses. So if I leave home at 7:30 a.m., there's your dependent clause. I get to the college by 7:50 a.m., there's an independent clause. And, your second independent clause, I start checking my email at 8. So that compound complex sentence. So the reason I'm telling you about sentence types is you're going to have variety in your writing. You're going to want variety in your writing. So sometimes you will want to write in short, simple sentences. Other times you have more complex ideas you need to communicate, and so you're going to write in more complex sentence structures. So if you just write in short, simple sentences all the time, your writing might sound choppy. However, if you always write in compound complex sentences, your writing might sound wordy or sometimes unclear because you're not structuring things in a clear, easy to read way for your reader. So having that variety of sentence types is going to improve the effectiveness of your writing. Okay, so now we're going to go on to sentence errors. So I'm going to start by talking about sentence fragments. And just like the word fragment, you can tell that it's not a whole thing. Something's missing, there's a piece. So a sentence fragment is either missing a subject, or it's missing a predicate, or it's beginning with a subordinating conjunction. So take a look at that first, and I'm not even going to call it a sentence. I've put a period at the end of it, but it's not a sentence. It's missing something. What is it missing? If you said subject, you're correct. Who is in the last row, or what is in the last row? We don't know. How about the second one? You might be wondering what happened. Where did they go? Not where did they go, but did they walk to the hospital? Did they drive to the hospital? What do you mean Joe and Teresa to the hospital? It's missing the verb in that one. And the last one? Right, it's beginning with a subordinating conjunction, so that's forming a fragment. If it is cold is not a sentence. Okay, so sentence fragments are missing something, and you can see the 3 examples there. 2 other sentence errors are called run-on sentences and comma splices. So run-on sentences are, and they're also known as fuse sentences, happen when you don't use any punctuation to separate or even in fact to join 2 independent clauses. So run-on sentences are a common problem. Students must learn how to detect and punctuate them. It's hard to know when one thought begins and another thought ends. And so in this case, this run-on sentence, you've got 2 independent clauses squeezed together with no punctuation and no connecting word. You may think that the way to fix that is to put a comma. And in fact, if you just add a comma between those 2 independent clauses, you've created a new sentence error, and that's called a comma splice, which is not any better than a run-on sentence. So a run-on sentences are a common problem. Comma, students must learn how to detect and punctuate them, is not correct. You've created a comma splice. A comma is not sufficient to join or to separate 2 independent clauses. So how do we fix them? I've put the same sentence up, and then we'll look at 5 ways to fix this run-on sentence error. And if you had to put a comma, that would be considered a comma splice. So really the way to fix this error, whether it's a run-on or a comma splice, there are 5 options for joining these 2 independent clauses together. The first one is to use a period to separate the 2 independent clauses into 2 sentences. If you're going to choose that option, you have to put a period, you would put a period, and then you would capitalize students. So that's one option. It's probably the easiest option, actually. The second option is to use a comma and one of the fanboys, one of the coordinating conjunctions. So which one do you think would work best? For, and, nor, but, or, yet. So take a look at the sentence and decide which one fits the situation. Yeah, I think so works. You could use and as well. Remember, you're going to use a comma and then one of the fanboys to join those 2 independent clauses together. There's a third option, which is to use a semicolon. So if your independent clauses are closely related to each other, you could use a semicolon to join them together. If you do use a semicolon, you don't capitalize the second independent clause. The fourth option is to use a semicolon, one of the conjunctive adverbs, and then the comma to join the independent clauses. So therefore might be a good option. Therefore kind of means the same as so. So just like you use the comma so with the fanboys, you could use semicolon, therefore, comma to join those independent clauses together. And the fifth option is to use a subordinating conjunction, and that would make one clause dependent and join it to the independent clause. So you could say, since run-on sentences are a common problem, and then you'd have to use a comma. Students must learn how to detect and punctuate them. So that was a quick review of some grammar terminology as well as some common sentence errors and how to fix them. If you do need more help with grammar, I'd encourage you to access your course materials, your professor. We have lots of other resources in SALS Online, including an editing skills workshop, a punctuation review workshop, lots of grammar and punctuation quizzes and tip sheets. And one of the things I want to tell you about our quizzes is that they come with feedback. So if you try one of the grammar and punctuation quizzes, after you've submitted it, click on View Feedback because it explains the answers to you, which is very helpful. We also have peer writing tutors at SALS, an ESL specialist, and a writing specialist at SALS. So lots of options for getting help with your grammar. And I'd encourage you to take a look at your writing. If your professors are saying that you need some help, take advantage of the help, whether that be making an appointment or accessing some of the SALS Online resources or materials from your professors. We also encourage you to connect with SALS through social media. And if you do have any questions or you want to book an appointment, please contact us at the phone number or the email below. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you learned something about English grammar, and remember that help is available, and good luck with your studies.